Hello my quilting friends! Leah Day here with a new video for the Machine Quilting Party. Today we're quilting pinstripes, a really cute design inspired by a pinstripe suit. So let's get on the machine and learn how to quilt this with walking foot style quilting. So I'm stitching out some pinstripes, and I began on the edge of my quilting space and stitched in, and I'm going to be breaking thread with every single line. And this is something that I do, especially when I'm working on a bigger quilt or I'm working in the middle of a quilt, is breaking thread with every line of stitching. And please don't feel like this is a bad thing. It sometimes speeds up the whole process. And certainly for this, stitching off right into the batting area means I don't have to tie off and bury that thread tail, which is always nice. Now, as for these squares, you might be wondering how we're going to secure this. I'm going to be doing a victory lap stitching around this, and that's going to secure that stitching. So I'm not worried about that stitching coming undone later. So I have this 1/4 inch thick painter's tape, and that is helping me space out my narrower lines. And I found that I can, if I'm careful, I can lift it and use it multiple times. So here I'm lifting it up and I'm just pressing it right against that previously stitched line. And I want to keep it kind of taut. I'm pulling on it slightly, so that way I'm sure that line is nice and straight. Okay, so now again, slide over here, get on top of the tape, and I am on top of the tape where my needle is sinking down right next to the edge of the tape. Visually, that really works for me, even when I'm stitching on blue fabric with blue painter's tape. If you have trouble seeing that edge, you could try a different color tape. You could try marking it. There's lots of different things that are open to you. There is a 1/4 inch mark here on the foot that I could use that instead. I prefer the painter's tape just because I know it's going to give me that exact 1/4 inch spacing, and I don't have to depend on that line, which is sometimes kind of hard to see on my foot. So here I'm just stitching, keeping my needle lined up right with the edge of that line, and that's going to create our closer spacing. Then I'm using the guide on my walking foot to create the wider spacing. So I'm doing 1/4 inch apart lines, then 1 inch apart lines. I'm going to stitch all the way off into the batting and then clip those thread tails. And this is just allowing me to speed up a little bit and be able to quilt pinstripes a little quicker. And this is one of those things, as you start quilting more, and especially quilting with your walking foot, you're going to have to figure out ways to quilt a design and speed up with it, so you're not quilting your quilt for a million years. So it's actually, somewhat speedy. And figuring out different methods is really good. I think quilting from the batting or from the edge of your quilting space into the quilt and then quilting off into the batting area, that's a good option. And please watch my videos on securing your thread tails and on the victory lap stitching, how to connect things together, if you're curious about those techniques. So here I just lined up that guide with that previously stitched line, and you can see how fast I am stitching this. It is a very speedy design, but I love this texture. It's so elegant. It really has a beautiful spacing, a beautiful texture. The closer spaced lines are close enough that you can see it, but because you have a wider spacing between them, 1 inch wide spacing between them, it's still going to finish very, very soft, and I love that. I've also used pinstripes in a big quilt, the Mega Pinwheel Star Quilt. I used pinstripes in the background area. So definitely check out the Mega Star Walking Foot Workshop if you'd like to learn more about quilting this design on a larger scale and how to stitch it through the background around a beautiful star shape. So I'm just going to continue repositioning my tape. Once it loses its sticky, I'll grab another piece, but I think I can probably use this 2 or 3 times. I'm going to continue repositioning that, stitching on the opposite side of it, then using my guide to space out the wider spacing. And here's what it looked like whenever I finished pinstripes. So that's it for this video. I hope you learned a lot quilting pinstripes with me today, and you'll jump on your machine and give it a try. This is one of those designs that is very simple, but it really can stitch your quilt up a notch. And those repeating close spaced lines and further spaced lines, I think they look really elegant on your quilt. Now, I actually used this design in the Mega Pinwheel Star Walking Foot Workshop. I used it to quilt the background around the Mega Star. So if you'd like to learn more about quilting this design in a really big quilt with minky fabric on the back, definitely go and check out that workshop at leahday.com/megastar. Now, if you're interested in creating the quilt behind me, the Marvelous Mosaic Quilt, what we're doing is we're stitching out these walking foot designs into big squares. When the entire quilt is done, we're going to trim the squares down and connect them together, quilt as you go style, to create this quilt. So if you'd like to join in the fun and make this quilt with me, all you're going to need is a copy of my book, Explore Walking Foot Quilting with Leah Day. It comes with the quilt pattern so you know what size to create your blocks and make the binding that connects it together. So come and check it out at leahday.com/walkingfoot. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel on YouTube so you don't miss the next video coming out soon. Until next time, let's go quilt!